Anthony Nelson Jr. is a saxophonist, flautist, clarinetist, and composer known for blending jazz, gospel funk, and neo soul into a unique and captivating sound. A versatile musician who's performed with legends such as Billy Hart, John Hicks, Regina Carter, and the Count Basie Orchestra. His recordings, including Testament live at Cecil's and Tenor for Two, showcase his deep musical storytelling. He also serves as the artistic director for the Jazz in the Sanctuary Cities at Shiloh Baptist Church, bringing world-class jazz to the community. He exclusively plays Vandoren mouthpieces, Yanagisawa saxophones, and Uebel clarinets. So, Anthony, my friend, good to see you. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We were just talking before we were recording about, you're also an educator too. Does that allow you to, because when you're an educator, you have sort of the benefits and a steady paycheck. Does that allow you to think about, when you perform in a sense, just straight ahead jazz, whatever you want to call it, you can just focus on the artist side of it instead of the
No, because it does provide me with a benefits, like you said, and it gives me a cushion. But I live in Montclair, New Jersey. I have six children. It's six wonderful
Six?
children. Yes, six wonderful children, and so every dime is accounted for. I promise you, every dime is accounted for. It's an expensive lifestyle, and no, the prices of nothing have gone down.
Only gone up.
They've only gone up. So though though it's allowed me to have a certain comfort or excuse me stability, it's also sometimes made it so that that I'm more so living in my part of my calling. I'm meant to be an educator as well as a professional musician. So everything I do on the bandstand ends up in the classroom. And everything that I do in the classroom ends up on the bandstand because they constantly inform each other.
It's got to feel like two different worlds though sometimes. I mean, and I can that's at least that way for me as an educator. Does it feel that way in a sense, like you're living two lives?
Yes, because in all honesty, where I teach, they do not care about who Anthony Nelson is outside of the building. What they're concerned about is Anthony Nelson as an educator. I can't ask them to know who I am outside of work, outside of being an educator at this particular school. I'm not even going to mention the name of the school because
Have you brought in your own groups like quartets or trios to play for the kids?
not yet, but the kids actually know who I am. They've heard record. One thing, this is the first year I ever, uh, seeing as though this was a new school for me, I said, you know what, let's let the students know a little bit about who's teaching them. And even before that, we had a great rapport. So as they walked in the room, uh, Tenor for Two was playing, or Swinging Sunset, my most recent album, was playing, or Swift to Hear, Slow to Speak. They were hearing me and they were bopping their heads. And it was cool. It was cool. I have the world's greatest students at my current place of employment. They're just simply wonderful. We have a great rapport, and I have conversations with them. So they hear me all the time. Some of them have gone and Googled me and found out who Mr. Nelson is. And they said, Mr. Nelson, are you famous? I said, no, I'm not famous. I have people that know who I am, but I'm not famous. I'm your teacher. That's who I am. And that's all that matters when I'm here, is that I'm your teacher. And so we're able to have some great conversations about music as a whole and about how we're approaching it and what we're trying to say with the music. It's
Um, have you had them show up at gigs of yours without knowing they were going to be there?
not at this school. I've had it with other places I've worked where other colleagues have shown up. Um, administrators. Like, hey, we didn't know you were going to be here at this club. I've had that happen. This place, not so much, not yet. I have a feeling it's coming. I have a
Um,
feeling it's coming.
that's great. Let's talk about Cecil's for a second.
Yes, I
Um,
miss that place.
did you grow up going there pretty regularly?
Well, okay, so I was already in Cecil's band,
Oh,
Cecil Brooks
let's let's
III.
let's let's backtrack for a second. Can you tell
Okay,
us what Cecil's is for the audience who doesn't know?
Cecil Brooks III is a phenomenal drummer, composer, and jazz producer primarily. Um, he produced records for John Hicks, Don Braden, Arthur Blythe, Bruce Williams, myself. He produced my first records. And even him and I co-produced my last record, Swingin' Sunset. He's played with a plethora of musicians. He's worked with, matter of fact, I believe Russell Gunn's first albums were produced by Cecil Brooks III. So Cecil has a treasure trove of great albums. And matter of fact, there's a great number of us that owe a part of our careers to Cecil Brooks III, giving us record deals or helping us get our start, or expand our territory as recording artists.
I went to
Oh.
Cecil's about 20 years ago, and it was after I'd moved back from Boston. I didn't grow up going to jazz clubs, but then I walked in there. It felt like I was in another world. And it was a cold New Jersey winter. So I remember driving up the Parkway and I'm like, where am I right now? In a good way.
Yes. And so Cecil had this vision. He said, I want to open up a jazz club for the cats. He was, people would come in and um he had Hilton Ruiz there. Uh Oliver Lake was there. I mean, everybody worked there. Everybody was there to Roy Hargrove came through. Christian McBride would do gigs there, because their vision was bigger than just making a a killing or just making another gig. Their goal was to see the jazz community thrive.
Well,
So
how old were you the first time you actually went there? Do you remember?
well, I was in my 30s when Cecil's opened because I was in Cecil's band already. I joined Cecil's band when I was 23, 24 years old.
How, if you don't mind, how old are you, if you don't mind me
I'm
asking?
47.
Oh, I thought you were much younger, to be completely honest. I thought
We'll
you and
go
I
with
were
it.
around the same age. I'm 37, so I thought you were.
Hey, yeah, and I'm okay with that. That means something's working if most people don't actually know how old I am.
Well, now
And
we revealed it to the world.
that's okay. I look good.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. Well, yeah, let's backtrack about the first time, playing there. Let's go back.
Well, I was in Cecil's before it became before it became Cecil's. I was there when I was helping Cecil move things into the club. I helped him move things out of his house that he used to have to as he's moving from one place to move to the club. I was there. And so to see the place, and there was so many careers formed there. And so my first time playing there was probably at a jam session because I believe the club was open by 2002 or three. Because I moved to DC. Yes, I moved to Washington, D.C. while the club was open. I would come back to work there. And so, that was a spot where Freddie Hendrix, myself, matter of fact, most people don't know this, but Emmett Cohen, that's where he was only 14 or 15 years old. Emmett will tell you this, and Emmett's a good brother. He'll tell you that's where he actually cut his teeth. That's what he was sitting there with myself, Dave Stryker, Mike Lee, all the cats, all the cats, Chris Berger, Christian McBride, and everybody from Jazz House Kids that are now, you see how big Jazz House Kids is. All of us used to hang there. It was almost like another office.
So it was certainly an invaluable, you know, place to go, and you just had you had a tremendous amount of, you gained a tremendous amount of knowledge being there and playing there.
I mean, you had to figure on any night because of who Cecil is, because of Bruce Williams, um, Roy Hargrove would come in some nights.
Russell Malone too.
Russell Malone was there all the time. I mean, Russell made the Jersey hangs. Whatever there was a spot in Jersey, he would show up. So it was a rich environment. Some people knew, okay, so we might not be making a grip of money, but all the time, but we're going to keep this music going. And from that, Cecil's helped people work their music out. It gave them for some of us, it was the first time we had a weekend in a club, doing a weekend where we had to draw people in. That was the first time for some of us learning how to balance our sets so that we could
Did you
get the
have
people
was
in
was
and
there
keep them
pressure
in.
to bring people out to those gigs when you would have the like get a weekend gig there? Like was there like, oh, you really have to bring people, or was it just like, we'll do our work as the club, and you do what you got to do artistically?
Well, by that time, we were already in that mindset where uh, we realized it's not up to the club owners alone. That's one of the mistakes in jazz right now is that people think that just because they're going to a certain club, that the club should do all the work with drawing people in. No, so it's not so much that there was pressure for us to on me to bring people in. It was that I got to see what Cecil was dealing with. I saw how um, some nights were remarkably slow, and then some nights were great, and then some nights people wouldn't bring anybody in, and they wanted to get paid like they were at the Village Vanguard.
Or you saw things like that happen?
I saw things like that happen. I'm probably rolling back the curtains a little bit, but some people don't get it. And the worst part was I heard a lot of criticism from the local yokels about Cecil's, you know, but here's the catch. Um, what jazz clubs do we have to play a weekend at now in New Jersey? Exactly. There's one, and that's Brush Culture, and that's way up in Teaneck. It's a great club. Rodney Green's doing a great job with it. But the truth of the matter is that instead of us having multiple jazz clubs, we have just the one right now.
I thought Trumpets was like a really cool. It had the same type of energy as Blues Alley in DC. It felt like, there's also a certain visual aesthetic and smell, and I thought Trumpets had that too.
Yeah, I mean, I miss trumpets. Believe it or not, I walk past trumpets every day. I live down the street from
Oh
trumpets.
yeah, what is it now? What is it? It's like did they take over yet or anything?
It's just a building
No one, no
across.
one, no one's bought it.
I don't know. It's just a spot across the street from the Walnut Street train station.
Right. There's a really
Well,
good restaurant on that street too. Like
Egan and Sons.
what?
There's a bunch of great restaurants on that street, to be quite honest with
No,
you.
no, right when you walk past Trumpets and you cross the street.
Oh, that French restaurant.
Yeah, I think so.
Yo, man, I love that spot. That's the first place I ate in my neighborhood. That place is awesome. Matter of fact, I think I need to pay a visit sometime soon.
Yeah, no, it's I agree with what you're saying. It's interesting though because out of all the, I speak to a lot of people, not on my podcast, but outside of here, and when it comes to talking about clubs, a lot of artists will just say, "Oh, the clubs aren't promoting it; they're not doing their part," blah 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 blah. but you got the firsthand knowledge of what it's like. It's not like he's a small business owner in a sense,
I mean, I'm
not a
going to say,
franchise. He owns a building or whatever, rents it, whatnot, and he has payroll and all the logistics, and he's got to pay the. It's a People don't understand what you're talking about.
I mean, I go as far as to say this. I saw firsthand that sometimes as jazz musicians, no matter how much we want to work, we're part of the problem. If for whatever you do, be true to your artistic expression, but it's a business. If in your artistic expression you're doing what you want to do, but the club is empty, what are you asking for the club owner?
Right. Are you asking for a lot of money if the club's empty? Or are you saying, no, we understand. We just want to play and gain the experience?
I mean, one of the best pieces of advice I actually was a point of correction. I was talking to someone I really respect, a great saxophonist, one of my peers, and we were having a disagreement about a saxophonist that we both about the way somebody played and where they were coming out of. It was such a silly argument, and I told someone else about it, and this person was had been producing CDs. Well, okay, it was Cecil. It was Cecil. I told Cecil about this argument, this debate that this other saxophonist and I was having. And Cecil looked at me and said, "Man, both of you need to be quiet." He said, "Because I've asked a lot of great musicians to do things in the recording studio that they're not known for doing because that's what was needed to make the record sell. That was the vision of the record. And so maybe the problem is that sometimes we're so busy trying to do our thing that we're not helping the cub keep thriving. If your thing isn't helping the club thrive, then it's just a selfish endeavor. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing sexy about being a starving artist. There's nothing sexy about it.
To
She's
some
not,
people, it is romanticized to the artist. Some people they feel that way, but I don't think so.
man, please, there's nothing sexy about it. I like being able to pay my rent.
Same.
I like having a refrigerator full of whatever vegan food I'm gonna be cooking. Being a starving artist, there's nothing sexy about it.
Yeah.
There's nothing sexy. That went out with ripped jeans. With never mind. That went out a
I
long time ago.
Yeah. It's there is that part though that certain jazz musicians might feel that they're not being authentic if they're not struggling in that way though. That's another side to they might say, we only want to make our living playing this music and we will be poor if that's what it takes.
So I was talking to Dion Parson last night from the United Jazz Foundation, great drummer. Um, and I was on his show and I said that some of the best advice I ever received was from the older musicians that some of my teachers like Dr. Leroy Barton and Calvin Jones and Bruce Williams and James Stewart. One of the things that they told me was we have to be able to make a living. So the reason why I play so many instruments, even though part of it was that I have a knack for that's part of my calling is to play all those instruments, just the way some people are can adapt to other languages very well. What they were actually doing when James Stewart told me to get my doubles together, my saxophone, flute, and clarinet, and then Leroy Barton was on me. Coleridge Taylor Perkinson sent me to Harold Jones to study flute. What they were really doing was telling me how to support my family, how to pay my bills. That's why I could go sit in a Broadway pit. That's why I could go sit in a big band at the last minute. That's why I could go make a record day with Ruth Naomi Floyd, where the only thing I was playing was bass clarinet. Her most recent album, is called Cato. If you ever get a chance to listen to that, I think it's the story of Octavius Cato. I might be messing up the name, but Ruth Naomi Floyd's latest album. And here's what's significant. we cannot be one trick ponies out here. We There's some people that get a household name or they become very popular. Well, that's good for them. But then there's professionalism. There's reasons why people like Patience Higgins and Bill Easley were always working, and why Mark Gross is always working, and Bruce Williams and all these other great saxophonists that might, even if the common Joe doesn't know them, they're not starving because they can cover more bases than the average bear. They're their own baseball team.
Well, yeah, you have to certainly share that advice if you see someone's going into music and they're younger and they want to, they're a woodwind player, then they need to understand that. And I'm sure you'd give them the guidance to do that. But and not, nonetheless, this has been such a great conversation. Thanks so much for talking with me today. And please pass the word you know, if you have any peers who might be interested in having a conversation, you know.
Man, thank you for having me. I was so excited when you asked me, and you're a wonderful individual, my brother.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Please keep on doing what you're doing because there's a lot of us that are going to be, a lot of young people are going to be informed, and a lot of people are going to have a concept because of you uh, that they wouldn't have had, been able to have before. They'll
And
be more well informed.
I'll also talk to the younger musicians as well because the ones who are coming up, they need a voice too,
Mm.
They,
Well,
not everybody, but you know what I mean.
yes. All right.
Thanks,
Well,
man.
thank you.